Well, hello, folks. We're the Lingenhoels with Keller Williams Chervenic. I'm Arden.
And I'm Lisa.
And we're joined today by Barb DeJacimo and Greg Anderson. How was that? Good.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
We're going to turn to you guys right now and have you tell a little bit about yourselves. Just kind of, give us a little background, and then we're going to get into some questions for you.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I'll start. So Greg Anderson, been a Louisville resident for over 31 years now. I've had three kids in the school system, one who's graduated and finishing college, and two that are in their junior year. So, very involved in the Louisville community. I work in the private sector in high-tech technology, and it seems like I spend a fair amount of time working on levies. So we'll talk more about that in a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm Barb DeJacimo. I am actually Vice President of the Louisville City School Board. I also have kids in the district. One graduated. My current child in the district is a junior in high school. My background is actually in education. I'm a former national board certified teacher. I worked in Perry for about 15 years before I decided to stay home and take care of my kids. So education's always been a huge priority in my life.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, as you can all see, we all have some papers with a lot of questions. And as Greg mentioned, he mentioned something about the levy, and that's why we are all here. There's been a lot of talk lately about the levy, and well, actually in the last few years about the levy. And we thought that it would be a great idea to come on and answer some questions that our citizens have brought to our attention. And we received quite a few questions in the last few weeks, and we've got them here. And who better to bring on and respond to these questions? So we're just going to go down through our list, and if you can, just answer these, and we'll just go from there, okay? So let's start with this. Can you give our audience a brief overview of the current financial situation of the school district, of the Louisville School District?
Sure. This is probably one that's for me. I'm on the financial committee for the school board. So currently we have a $2.56 million levy expiring, meaning at the end of this year, we will no longer collect that $2.56 million. Our current fiscal year, we are almost even between revenue and expenditures, but actually because of a required curriculum buy, we are actually going to spend $170,000 more than what we take in. This is never a great situation. With the falling off of this levy, as you can imagine, the problem just grows and grows. So the following year, we will be about 1.9 million if we continue down this path in the hole from what we take in, our revenue and our expenditures, because half of a year's collection will come off on that levy because the fiscal year and the school year are different. The year after that, it goes to, I believe, over $4 million, again, because then we're losing a full year's collection, plus we have another levy that will start to expire. So it just gets worse and worse.
Kind of snowballs.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good. Why is this levy being proposed now?
So Barb mentioned that we have one expiring, 2021. The voters passed a 5-year emergency levy. That is expiring. And just so people are aware, in the state of Ohio, we go through a levy process. And that levy process is not unique to Louisville. It's something that happens all over the state. And what's interesting about us having to bring this levy up again is that the taxpayers don't want to do permanent levies. So this 5-year renewal cycle, and we have a couple of different levies that are on 5-year renewal cycles. So sometimes it feels like, wow, we're always voting on levies. Well, we kind of are in a way. One, because if they get turned down, we have to come back. And then two, because once we get approval on one, there's another one that is a year or two away from expiring. And so while it feels like we're continuing to do that, the choice of our taxpayers is that they want to review every 5 years our levies. Other districts, they approve permanent levies, and they don't have to go through this. But particularly in the Louisville district, we go through this on a regular basis. So this one is expiring. And as Barb talked about where we are financially in the district, if this does not pass, there will be some challenges across the district.
Okay. A question that we hear often, will this levy increase my taxes? And if so, if you can't answer, by how much for the average homeowner? Do you have
This is
any
actually
idea?
a very, very simple answer.
Okay.
Your taxes cannot increase. It is a fixed sum levy, meaning we can only collect $2.56 million each year. Does not matter what happens to your property values, it's fixed sum, that's all we can increase. In fact, if more houses are built, you will actually see a slight decrease in your property taxes.
Okay. We like that.
Yes.
And one of the things I would add on that is, and this has been standard across the entire state of Ohio since 1976. House Bill 20 was passed in the legislature. And what that does is, and we're the only state in the union, by the way, that does this. We're the only state that when there is a property increase or a reassessment, which happens every 3 years, we do not see any increase on that.
Right.
So when, I think, of course, our voters, our taxpayers just saw a reassessment. They saw some increases. The school district doesn't and cannot get any more than that 2.5 million that we just talked about.
Right.
And we are the only state in the union that does this. And as a result of that, there are actually 560 so districts in the state right now that are actually in the red. Because think about it, inflation has happened. We've seen big inflation, particularly since 2020. And so we'll talk maybe a little bit more on this later, but what the school district has done to tighten the belt. But the district is not seeing any new money. In fact, they're having to tighten their belt because of inflation and because when there's a reassessment, there is no increase at all in taxes.
Yeah. Do you know what specifically will the funds from this levy be used for?
Yes. So
Okay.
it goes into the general fund,
Okay.
and that is operating costs. So what we are talking about is staff salary and benefits. We're talking about gas for our buses. We're talking about electricity. We're talking about like keeping the lights on at school. Literally the most basic things that our students need.
Yeah. We all get this.
Yes.
I love this. Don't you love this?
Yeah, you have some
I
nice
know.
articles in
I
there
know.
and a lot of information.
Yeah.
And I know that some of you out there might not get that, but if you get a chance, pick one up. Maybe if you're older, your kids have it at home. But yeah, take a look at it. There's a lot of information in there, and I think there's some information about the levy in this.
Yeah.
This last
So one of the questions that came over, can you help explain some of the more complex topics, such as the state aid reduction and how that impacts our district? And well, let's just start with that.
You want to
Sure.
jump on that?
Sure. So what Lisa's actually referring to is the very, very first thing
Yeah.
on the paw prints right here.
On the front page. Yeah.
And so what state aid? So basically in the state of Ohio, some of the students' education is paid for by the state, and some of it comes from our local property taxes. And if you look, what we have in the paw prints is if we go back 10 years ago, the state paid 59.6% of the cost to educate our students. as property values rise, the state looks at Louisville and says, you have plenty of money. You guys can afford to support more of that. So this year, every year it's gone down how much the state pays for their share. So our share, our local share increases. So although our local share used to be 40%, this year our local share is over 50% because the state is only paying 47.9% and our 47.3%. And it gets better because next fiscal year, the state is projected only to pay 37.6%. So we are talking a 20% difference in the last 10 years of what the state does to support our students versus what they expect the local community to do. And that is nothing that the school has any control over.
Wow.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add on that, if people want to visualize it, is think of a pie. So we just talked about the percentages. So typically when the percentages shift, we have to come up with more money because the state is lowering it. Well, I want you to think about the fact that the pie is actually shrinking because with the levy, we can't bring in any additional funds. Right. So the state is paying less. We're operating with the same amount that we're allowed to take or bring in on the levies. So it's not that the pie is the same, it's actually the pie is getting smaller, and our Louisville schools have to operate within that smaller pie and figure out how to make things work.
Wow. Let's talk about cost per pupil. How does our district compare to the state average and nearby districts in Stark County?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, what I would say here is that our residents of Louisville get an incredible value from our school districts. So there are over 600 school districts in Ohio. We rank in the lowest 5% of the revenue per student that we contribute to education to fund our students. So we're in the bottom of the bucket of what we're providing per student per revenue for their education. Yet from a performance standpoint, our school district is in the top 27% of schools. So if you think about that from a taxpayer perspective, while our taxpayers are providing revenue at the lowest levels in the state, I'm not sure if that's something we should be proud of, but having said that, because of the performance, we're seeing a huge impact from our schools given the funding that they have.
We're getting bang for our buck. Basically.
Absolutely. Our taxpayers should be very proud of our district. There isn't, we hear about, well, we need to cut this and this and this and this. There aren't any more rubber bands and paper clips to cut anymore, folks. We are at the very basic in what we're doing, and we'll maybe talk a little bit more on what the impact can be as if this doesn't happen, but there's a significant impact to our kids, to our community, to our property values, if we continue to turn down levies.
Yeah.
And then I would just say again, Paul Prince tries to spell this out for you. If you look at the state average for funding per pupil, it is over $18,000 a student, whereas what we spent or get funded per pupil is $14,620 a student. So close to a $4,000 difference in what the average district does. And then if you want to look more locally, Stark County average is over $17,000. So we are still significantly below what other districts in Stark County get per student.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I think at this point, let's take a short break. And when we come back, we have a lot more information to share with you. So stay with us and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle with a great price? Then check out Ted's Auto Sales. Ted's has a great selection of vehicles and will find you the right one that fits your needs. Ted's was founded on trust, integrity, and respect, and has been serving in the Louisville, Ohio and Nimishillen Township area for over 65 years. So call Ted's today at 330-875-9401. Ted's Auto Sales, Louisville's premium pre-owned dealer.
Hello everyone, I'm Tegan Evans. As many of you know, when the Louisville Herald moved on into retirement, the city of Louisville, Nimishillen Township, and all of its community members were left with a void. The community lost its ability to hear about local events, news, information, sports, and community projects. We lost the ability to come together for Louisville's betterment. Well, we have a solution for you, Spotlight Media Network. Spotlight Media Network is a place anyone can go, whether it be social media, YouTube, or our website, that will display information in different formats to show the best Louisville has to offer. One last thing, if you have something newsworthy or something you would like the community of Louisville to hear about, send us an email at spotlightlouisville1@gmail.com. So if you want to see what is happening in Louisville or the best Louisville has to offer, check out Spotlight Media Network, where we know Louisville is number one.
Well, hey, welcome back, folks. We're joined today by Greg and Barb, and we're talking about the school levy that's going to be coming up. And one of the questions I wanted to throw out to you was, what steps have you taken as a district to cut costs and operate more efficiently?
Okay, there are several things that we do. A lot of feedback that we get from people is, why don't you go after grants? And the fact of the matter is, we go after grants aggressively. So if you just give me so in the past 5 years, we have received $152,256 in local grants. We've received $181,872 in state grants and $656,964 in federal grants. So the narrative that we don't go after grants is just untrue.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing that we do is we do basically big purchase buying through the ESC, where we are with a whole group of other districts, so we get better rates on our electricity, better prices on our busing, so better prices on our healthcare, things like that. Derek invests our money, whatever money is not currently in use. If you look at our monthly reports, fiscal reports, you will see that on any given day, 97 to 100% of our money is invested in very safe investments that are also very liquid, that we can get the money out within 24 hours. So it's things that the state have set up as safe investments, but we, of course, get revenue off of that money. If we're not using it that minute, we're investing it. Another thing in the past couple years, you might have noticed, if you are a parent, your kids have been getting free school lunch the past 2 years. That is a program, a state program that Derek Nottingham, our treasurer, discovered, where we could take advantage of other state grants and other state funding mechanisms if we did that. Because of that, everyone is getting free lunches, plus the district, the first year, received $1 million more in funds from the state. Now, the state has since adjusted. Eventually, it'll probably even out. We're getting much less this year, but honestly, we try and find the money wherever we can to provide the best service possible to our students in our community.
Well, that's
Wonderful.
awesome.
Let's talk about impact on the community. Can you speak to the schools district role as an employer in Louisville and its impact on the local economy? Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, so first of all, the Louisville School District is the largest employer. You know, and let's think about in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, for example.
Okay.
They just went through a process where the levy didn't pass a number of times. They reduced headcount by over 41 teachers and staff. And what that does is have a direct impact on every small business and every piece of the community when that revenue those dollars come out of the city. So we're the largest employer. We have a huge impact on the financial success of the community. And when levies don't pass, there's a number of things that happen in that process. People get laid off. In Reynoldsburg, it was 51 people. The pay-to-play contribution goes up. And what that ultimately does is it actually disenfranchises some of the most at-risk students in our district because their families don't have the dollars to pay those increased pay-to-pay fees. And when you think about that, we have a lot of kids in our district that go to college on scholarship.
Mhm.
Those scholarships are their lifeline to be able to get further education. And yet, if their families can't pay for the increased fees, they have to fall out of the participation opportunity. So what we're seeing is that when something like that happens, and Reynoldsburg is a great example, you start to see a decline in the community. Families that have the resources move to another district or to another community that supports education. It reduces the choices of our kids for what they can do in the future. When I talk about things like college, colleges are highly competitive, and you hear in our some members of the community saying, well, you know, people don't need extracurriculars anymore. We don't need to pay for those. Well, that is a very critical piece of students' ability to be able to go on to college because it's highly competitive. When I went to college, I was lucky. It wasn't as competitive. In today's age, I look at my kids, for example, if they're not engaged in lots of different things, that's actually a distractor on their college application. So again, not only does it have a direct financial impact, but what you see is when the school levies aren't passed, that the families with resources move out. We see a decline in dollars being spent within the community. We see less opportunity for our kids, and it's a snowball in the wrong direction.
Mhm. I think along with that, you also see property values because people are moving out. Property values are also starting to
Absolutely.
decline.
Yeah, so the
you're
research
absolutely
is
right.
very clear that for folks who, let's face it, who wants to pay taxes?
Yeah.
There's a place there where we pay taxes where there is a direct correlation to value, not only in the value and the education that our kids are receiving, but for those who don't have kids in the district or don't have grandkids in the district, it has a direct impact on your property value as well. So if for no other reason to vote for the levy is to protect the value of your home, there is a direct correlation, and look at Reynoldsburg as a good example where you're starting to see property prices decline because people are moving out. It's not an attractive place to live anymore.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share something that I learned last night. I always knew that most of our employees live in Louisville, shop in Louisville. But if you look at the classified employees, Donna Hall let us know last night, 94% of our classified employees, that's our lunch providers, that's our bus drivers, that's our secretaries, that's our paraprofessionals, that's our library aides, that's anyone who is not like with a teaching certificate but works for the schools, all vital employees live in Louisville.
94%?
94%.
Wow.
That's great.
That is wonderful. That is. So looking ahead, what is the long-term plan for financial stability in the district? I know I skipped a few questions. I kind of threw them all off, but you answered a lot of those questions with your response there. So looking ahead, what is the long-term plan for financial stability in the district? What do you think, Barb?
So this is a very tough question because every month at the State House, something changes, right? We know there's the whole discussion, I won't get into it, about property tax, that kind of thing. So it is hard. What I can say is we have a 5-year forecast, and that if things are in place as they are now, we make choices and have to make cuts in order to continue to live within our means. So this levy, in fact, does, even with this levy, because it didn't pass in the fall and we couldn't convert it to one that we would get growth on, or on new builds, we are still going to have to make some really tough cuts in some positions. So it's something the board is committed to. It's something required by law so that we don't get taken over by the state. It is hard to say when the next ask, besides the renewal, that's in 2 years, I mean, honestly, will be. But we really have to see what the State House does with the biennium budget every single time. It has changed every single time. It's very hard to be too forward thinking, because every time we think that something is going to happen, like a couple years ago, they passed a fair funding, and then they decided in year 3 to take that away. So everything's been cut again.
And one of the things that I would add to this, and I think I mentioned it before, is this is not unique to Louisville. All the school districts around the state are continuing to have to run levies in order to get dollars for operations and funding. The state continues to cut back in all places, which means the school districts, Louisville being one that's doing a great job, and hopefully we can continue to do that with as little as we have. But folks, this is a legislative issue, and it's not a local issue. It hits us locally because it will have a significant impact on our community and our kids and on our employers. But this is a legislative issue. Our legislature has not been doing anything to think through and actually determine how do we fairly fund education in the state of Ohio. So there are over 560 districts in Ohio that are in the same situation as Louisville right now. So it's not us, folks. We're doing great work. We're doing all the things we can. Your cost per student is so low, and yet we're having such high impact. But this is something that's happening statewide. We're not the only school district. So it's not that we've got all these dollars and we're poorly run and all of those things that you see out on social media that are untrue. What's important here is we need to talk to our legislators and determine whether education is key in Ohio. And what we do know in Louisville is it's absolutely critical for the health of our community, the health of our property values, and to the society that we live in.
I know it's been quite a few years ago, the legislators were put in charge of figuring out how to take care of the schools. That kind of got swept under the rug. Now I talked to a lot of legislators, and Greg is absolutely right. These legislators have now put it back on the districts. They put so much back on the districts that it's getting impossible. There's states out there that their schools are totally funded by the state, and now it's more and more on our shoulders to figure out how to make it. And we're not looking at a business trying to make it. We're looking at our future trying to make it.
Absolutely.
So,
for the community, where can community members go to get more information or ask additional questions?
Okay.
If they have additional questions.
So I would encourage you, please reach out, first of all, to the Board of Education and the board office. If you want to dig into the finances and have a conversation with Derek Nottingham, he will absolutely sit down with any community member and answer any question you ask and open the books. If you want to look at our financials, they are on our website. Everything is there. It's very transparent. If you want to have a conversation with our superintendent, please do so. Any of the board members on the Board of Education, whether it's me or John Aljancic or Frank Antonisi or Brenda Lamoureux or Brian Beatty, we would be happy to answer any questions that you have or direct you to the correct people. But honestly, Superintendent Schaefer and Mr. Nottingham are the experts on this. This is what they do for their livelihood, right? This is what they do for the community. They are the true experts. They live and breathe this every single day. And they are more than happy to talk to people. Despite what you might hear out there. Again, Facebook is not a great place for information, to be honest, okay? But go to the source.
Yeah, and I would add to that. So again, I'm a community member. I'm not associated with the schools other than I have kids in the schools. I did my research. I asked Derek a ton of questions. He makes it easy to understand. He you know, finances, particularly in public sector and in schools, is really complex. He makes it really easy, and he'll answer your questions. And that's what I did. And that's why, as I looked at our finances and the way our district is managing them, I became a champion for the schools because I'm, one, really proud of how our schools manage their dollars and the impact that we get. And two, I see some of the things that are out online, and if people just spent 5 minutes talking with Derek, they'd really understand the situation our district is in, and I hope they would be very proud with the efficient way that our district runs.
Well said, Greg.
Yes.
Well, Greg and Barb, thank you for coming in. And I know this is a hot topic, and we just are going to urge everybody to get out there and vote. That's what we need.
Absolutely.
Get educated, folks. It's, you know, sitting at home and, you know, thinking about when you were in school and things have changed. You know, get out there and learn a little bit about what's going on. It goes a long way. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
absolutely.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. Well, everybody, summer is arriving. I know the boat's coming out of the building and getting de-winterized. Hopefully yours is too, Greg. And we'll see you on the lake soon. Anyway, we'll see you around town. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye-bye.